Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Collector Showcase. This is an interview series for anybody who's watching back on this channel that I do with a lot of collectors, a lot of different personalities, and everything in the hobby. And we are joined by a pretty special guest. You don't see him live very often, Mr. Leonhart. How are you doing, Lee?
I am doing amazing. I actually have energy tonight after taking care of my daughter, so I am ready to go. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate it. I know, doing these around all the other things that you've got going on. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on and, just kind of giving the community a little bit of a different side of you, right? This is sort of a little bit of a different medium, for you. Because I know that right now with your content has been, which by the way, the recent stuff has been fantastic. I can definitely tell a little bit of a couple of turns that you've done and you've definitely adapted. And, but I know live is something that, we don't see too often from you. So again, appreciate you doing that. And I'm sure chat, we'll have plenty of things to ask you throughout this, guys. If you have questions and things like that for Lee, we do them about the last 15, 20 minutes of this interview. So feel free to drop them now. I will scroll to the back and we'll answer those. But, Lee, before we get started, I mean, you're obviously going to be one of the biggest faces in Pokemon. So not really a super introduction necessarily of yourself, but what is Leonhart doing in 2025? I mean, how has the year been for you so far? How are you navigating this this craziness that we have going on? I guess if you want to take a couple minutes and kind of let us know what you're doing this year.
Yeah, again, well, first off, thank you so much. You have an incredible show and really am grateful to be here. So thank you. And thank you to all of y'all in the chat and that are just here watching. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your evening to join us. So thank you for that. But yeah, my name's Lee or Leonhart, and at this point, it's been over 10 years of doing YouTube content where we were just chatting a bit before the show actually started, where I used to do just really random zany music type of videos over in 2005 to where it progressed to nostalgic video game videos to then, of course, the Pokemon TCG and the Pokemon card game specifically. And so that growing through the years, and I was even talking with somebody earlier about the year 2016, which is almost a decade ago at this point, where Pokemon Go just came out and XY Evolutions came out. It's already been almost a decade. And so just kind of reminiscing through the times to where obviously now, and with how crazy things were, I just have to say before I'm done with my small intro is I asked myself at the beginning of right before Pokemon Go came out, and I was doing a random, I don't know what set it was, maybe Fates Collide or something. And I was like, you ever think, and this was just me thinking to myself, you ever think Pokemon is going to get as big as it was in the 90s? I thought that to myself. And then Pokemon Go came out, and the rest is history. And then with the pandemic and everything, and then of course with the things are now, it's like, I don't know. I would ask you that question. Do you think it's bigger than it was in the late 90s?
I think right now, I think it has to be, right? Because ultimately there's so many other mediums to talk about it. I think what was special about kind of that time when we grew up was it was literally word of mouth. I mean, you might have caught a TV commercial, you might have played the game. Well, likely you played the games, but it was more of people kind of organically just talking about it and sharing it through that way. And I think it got as popular as it possibly could back then. But it's impossible to sort of compare the popularity now because, I mean, think of all the different mediums that we have.
I was about to say there's so many different types of mediums now. But yeah, so it really is just incredible to see how it has grown these past, I mean, what is next year going to be? The 30th anniversary?
30th. Crazy to think about. It feels like the 25th and 20th just happened. And even hearing you say 2016 was almost a decade ago, I'm just thinking where did the last 10 years go?
Yeah, it's when you see those video game graphics and you're like, oh yeah, the graphics were from, PlayStation 3 or something like that. And it's 20 years ago, the graphics were just I guess PlayStation 3 at this point, but you know what I mean? You think it's Nintendo 64 was the craziest graphics and everything, but that was 25 years ago at this point. So time really does fly by.
No, it's wild. And talking about, kind of how you started, because I mean, how long have you been on YouTube now? I mean, actually making YouTube content, putting it out to the public. I mean, is it over a decade at this point?
So it is over 10 years, and even not counting those music videos from 2005. 2010 or 9 and 10 is when I started under the name Pokey Collector 20, I think was my name. And you didn't have face cams back then. This was just like, I think my phone that I was shooting stuff on. And I would showcase cards that I would send off to PSA actually, and send those off and then do a grade reveal, a little guess that grade back in 2009. And then from there, I started in November of 2014, the actual Leonhart channel. So 2000, yeah. So I guess it's been over
11 years.
Yeah, I can't even believe that. I was like double taking myself, looking at like the calendar on my computer because I'm like, it has been that long. And there's people that have been doing card openings well even before me on that end. It's just like you think it's like, oh, I just started not too long ago. It's like, no, that's a decade, man. That's a long time.
Well, I think too, because you were one of the very first people, because I got really back in this hobby probably around like 2018-ish, maybe late 2017. And a classic story, right? Found my childhood collection, found my binder, ended up saying, wow, I wonder if there's any Pokemon stuff out here. And ultimately it was, SM Pratt, Dan Ketchum All Collectibles, yourself, and maybe Jake from Pokenomics were really kind of the main channels I started looking at, which is a very diverse set of content to kind of fall into, right? I just wanted to see what is going on with Pokemon now. It's just game playthroughs or what is it? And one thing with yourself is you were one of the first people that I saw that were actually opening packs on YouTube. That was one thing that I was just never, I thought, wow, what a cool idea. It's almost like one of those things where when you see it, it's like, okay, yes, this is genius. But with you, I know you said that you just mentioned that there were people who were actually doing like pack openings before you. There couldn't have been that many. I can't imagine. Maybe it was people saying like, hey, I just bought this, really low effort quality. They're just sort of documenting the hits or whatever that looks like. Is that really kind of the cornerstone of what you grew your channel with, is mainly pack openings? And if so, when did you know that was like, hey, I've struck fire here? This is something that I'm really able to do. And a lot of people seem to enjoy it.
Well, first off, I got to pay absolutely respect to all of those creators that were before me. And I can't even go through all of them. It was more than a handful, I will say. But for myself specifically, I would always come back to Primetime Pokemon. I would always have Primetime Pokemon, just chill, opening up every single set, or pack. It was always opening, and it was always, just something chill. And I just like that sort of vibe. So, and thank you to all the other many creators that were out there, whether you do more just openings or other types of openings. And so, or knowledge videos. And for myself, I just was doing those top 10 nostalgic video game videos, or videos about like best PlayStation 1 games, Nintendo 64 games. And that we
talked
great.
A bit before this, and that was not to cut you off, but that was one thing that we talked about, is going back to kind of let's call it vintage now, because you're basically vintage when it comes to those videos. Vintage Leonhart content versus now. What a time machine, I would say, compared to like what people were watching.
Well, I will say, because I modeled myself, as cringiness aside, it's like you respect those old videos, but you respect how you also grow in that amount of time, because, I didn't know how to be on camera. I still don't. I'm very just weird like that. I just try to think I'm somewhat better. But you can go to those first videos, and I kind of modeled myself after creators like Markiplier. I don't know if you know who that is, but one of the biggest video game Let's Play creators, and more than that now. So I modeled kind of myself after him, and I would do those types of videos and have this other type of persona, I guess you can say, until you kind of just, get a bit more confident in front of the camera in what you think your actual purpose is with your entertainment. So we do have those nostalgic video game vintage top 10 lists and other types of things. In that regard, I did do Let's Plays as well, because I wanted to model it after people like Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, and a few others. And so now I think it was like around, what is it? I don't even know. I don't want to say if it's like Breakpoint, because I don't remember exactly when that came out, but it was just at some point I found myself really, really enjoying opening up packs in the community. Was a lot of fun. Was there growth? Absolutely, because I was having such an amazing time meeting other people in the community, collabing with people in the community, the other different types of channels, My favorite thing was in-person events, which were like random cons and stuff. I don't know how I swung it, but got Dallas Comic-Con. I was a guest, and this was like 2015 or something like that, but they put me like in the very corner or something. But I thought it was the coolest thing walking in and seeing my face on it, and people actually came out. So it was and still is an incredible community. But just even thinking about how long ago it was and the types of people you meet, like I'm sure yourself and people watching, just it really is such an eclectic, fun bunch. And that's what makes it one of the best communities in the world.
I completely agree with you. The one thing that I so enjoyed, and this kind of calls back to, you a little bit more recently, you did the pop-up shop, Leonhart's pop-up shop. One of the most fun things that I got to experience. And I can't remember if we talked about this before, but that was my very first in-person event. Because, obviously we're both local to Dallas, and I had never really looked at like collecticons. I wasn't really buying and selling as much, and I wasn't really ready to kind of make that leap into like a full-on collecticon, all those type of people. Mm-hmm. And I saw that you had posted, you were like, hey, I'm doing an in-person event. It's going to be here. Sign up for tickets, however, it's been a little bit since I remember how you did it, but that was the very first event that I was actually able to meet people in the community that I had already had relationships and friendships with online. Mm-hmm. And you were the medium, in order to make that happen, which I
and that's what I wanted. Absolutely. And I'm glad you had an amazing time, because that was the main reason for the event, other than to give people a chance to open up vintage packs and stuff. But it was about bringing the community together after a hectic, whatever, couple years. And so at that point, I think even TCA Gaming Rusty actually flew, and he never flew to stuff. So at that time, he actually
still doesn't.
Yeah. So to me, that was just amazing. And it made me just smile, because so many people did come in and got to hang out with each other.
Yeah. And it's one thing too, that I think really makes you unique in the space. And this is part of the reason that I always have enjoyed kind of following your trajectory over these last few years, is that you're not just someone who just pumps out content and you're strictly online. That's one thing. You've always kind of tried a lot of different things. And, I saw that too, when I was, kind of prepping for this to a degree of watching some of your old stuff, kind of seeing where you started, even trying to see what type of content creator you were. You, like you said, you were doing the Let's Play, let's rip packs, let's do, you went to a Markiplier event. You did a lot of different things to kind of try stuff out as far as content. And I feel like even at this level of, success and growth that you've had, you're still doing things different. I, to my knowledge, do not know of anyone else as far as a single content creator who's taken on the burden of actually creating an event to bring people together. And you're like, this is kind of my baby here that I'm making. And also, you're going to be able to open stuff that arguably most people are not going to be able to either afford or be able to, actually find in the wild, et cetera, or too scared to look online and buy something. Mm-hmm. What do you think? How do you keep that motivation and continuing to change what's already working? Because I do have a lot of respect for people who can, not take the easy way and say, this is working, I'm going to ride it till the wheels fall off. But you actually seem to be able to change things on a pretty regular basis on your own time. So what brings about that thought process? Why do you do that? Why do you not just say, I'm going to rip packs 7 days a week, and this is who I am and what I'm going to do?
So thank you for all the kind comments, by the way. I think it's just for myself is I'm old. I'm just turned 38 years old. And at this point, I think I feel like I know my purpose is, and that is trying to always create content, entertaining content, hopefully ones that I enjoy, but specifically, and whether you call it maybe greedy a little, is ones that challenge myself. Because sure, yes, I could just keep on opening this or do this, and that's great if that makes you happy. I just, for myself and knowing what makes me personally happy, that is to continuously challenge myself. So I had the pop-up shop. I went on American Ninja Warrior and opened up Pokemon cards at the time and trained for for a while. I did the Creator Clash boxing event. I'm a 38-year-old non-athletic man going in front of 1 million people versus a guy that was Crank Gameplays, who's amazing, by the way. He's 10 years younger than me. And I only trained for 3.5 months. He trained for 9 months and stuff. But it was for charity, and it was a challenge. When am I ever going to be able to go in front of the lights like that and see your name in the stadium and everything like that? So that all comes back together with the types of content that I want to do. Not everything's a success, but you're not going to know unless you try. And I have to continuously remind myself that it's risk, but they're semi-calculated risk, minus when I did open up a ton of first edition base set packs, which I don't recommend doing, but it was like at the same time, it's like, you're not going to know unless you try.
Right.
So that's when it comes back to the content itself in different types of events and things that I do is I always feel like there has to be at least like one big project that I'm working on that just really challenges you, because I ultimately think that's how you can slow down time. And I'm digressing a little because slowing down time is, and I ask this to people watching out there, does it feel like time is moving so fast now? Well, back then when you were going from 1 year, well, not one, but like 5 to 21 years old, you had so many different things happening in your life, like milestones, learning how to drive, getting your licensing, rated R movies, going to first grade, second grade, college. There were so many things happening in your life. It just made like that year, that span of 5 to 21 feel like 50 years. Because I don't know about y'all, it just feels like it's going so fast. So I felt like doing these different types of challenges and events where now it's like, oh, I remember that time. Yes, to me, it feels like that slows down time. So you're ultimately living in the present.
I've never heard that take before. It absolutely does. Because yeah, you think back when you were a kid, you're like, yeah, from, ages 10 to 13, that was like, a decade, because that's what it felt like. And I never really put two and two together of it's because you had so many different things you were doing. So that does make sense. And, you talk about big projects and things like that. And I love it. This kind of goes side away from kind of Pokemon content and Pokemon motivation, but like just the ultimate way to be able to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations, being able to put yourself in a place where you can continue to grow no matter how much success you have. You never really know what that top looks like, right? You never know how much you can achieve unless you actually put yourself in a position to achieve, which is not complacency. So I couldn't agree with you more on that. And I think one thing that you've done in not necessarily recent times, in the last couple of years, is starting RareCandy. I mean, I think that's something that, I love that you've been able to kind of create something. And I like seeing the updates of like how many cards you guys have scanned and stuff. Whoever's doing the marketing for you guys is doing a great job, because I follow that stuff all the time.
Thank you.
What prompted you to think, hey, I can do all these other things, but I want to actually start. Is it fair to call it an auction house, I guess, or a hub for just TCG and Pokemon collectors to go and buy and sell in confidence? I mean, how did that idea spawn? Who came up with it? What were your first steps, I guess, to kind of get that ball rolling, to get that launched?
Yes, it's a great question, and thank you for asking it. It was an idea that was lingering in my head of like, I'd like to create that one-stop shop to help connect a fragmented type of community of, oh, you have this type of community and people on this platform, on this site, or on this thing, and on here, and on here. And I get always people every single day tell me, oh, where does a trusted place to buy packs, or I bought this off of this place and it was resealed or something like that. So it's like, I wanted to create that type of, not necessarily a social network, but at the same time, that community hub where, yes, you can buy stuff via the marketplace, but then of course, take that type of high-end auction experience and, bring it specifically for the TCG community, and not just Pokemon, but of course, expand into other TCGs as well. Now, of course, things have throughout the past, I guess at this point, since we launched almost a few years ago, we morphed to where the resources, what we have, and like how we can try to succeed as best as possible. Because sure, we've had high-end auction before, many of them, and we have auctioned off some of the rarest items in the world. But then at the same time, what I'm probably most proud of is, the actual community that we built with not just, of course, the scanner and community tools and features that we have, but the social feed that we have on the platform as well. And just the people in general that have come and connected from all around the world just because of the platform. So my original idea, which I did say was lingering for a while, it wasn't until after or I guess right as the pandemic started, I got connected to Night Media, who Night Media represents different creators like Mr. Beast and a few others. They were based here in Dallas. And when I went to their office, I was like, oh, by the way, I have this idea, but I don't have a massive team or anything. I was editing my videos at that time. I did everything, thumbnails, everything. So I was like, if y'all want to work together, potentially set something up, here's my idea. Think about it. They thought about it. Didn't happen overnight or anything, but it was like eventually that's where it's like, let's see what we can do if we team up and co-found RareCandy. And so that's where RareCandy was born, was essentially finally getting the resources during the pandemic time to where now we're still a pretty small team, but we're doing what we can. And of course, could have gone a different route during that time of doing something for different platforms or anything. But again, going back to what I was saying earlier, I think I went for that risk, for that challenge of creating my own place, so I can try to mold it to, as much as I try to, as what I think would benefit the community the most. And with their ups and lows, of course, but that's where it kind of all was born from.
Would you say, I mean, you know, going into 2025, one thing that I really have enjoyed seeing is you guys are constantly updating or adding new features or doing kind of different things with it. You know, I feel like a lot of people who attempt to launch things like this, they put so much effort into the pre-launch that once they've launched, they're like, all right, it's perfect. We've thought of everything, but they don't really adapt it. What are you guys doing, I guess? Is there anything on the horizon for this year in 2025 that RareCandy is looking at that you can share? You know, that's something that, hey, we've been tossing this around, working on it for a while, and this is something to kind of expect coming from you guys this year. Because I know with all the different platforms, auction houses, I mean, I do think RareCandy sets itself aside from all of that in its branding and kind of its theme. But anything else you guys are working on, I guess, that people haven't seen before, maybe unique to RareCandy?
Yeah, well, what I can say, as much as I can, is we're really trying to put the community tools at the forefront. So that is the scanning and all the different types of TCGs, which right now it's just Pokemon and Lorcana, but we're trying to add many more TCGs to it. We're trying to make it even faster, even more accurate, getting rid of the bugs and everything. So we do release something, but we don't want to just release something just to release something. And then, you know, like you said, like, that's it, it's done. There are always, with the team that we have, which I said is very small, we do try to methodically but fast put out stuff that tries to, you know, keep on improving it and adding to it. So there is something new for people to expect. It's not just that one thing. And it's like, all right, that's it. It's like, no, what does the community need? Oh, they want this type of feature or something like that. So there's going to be a lot of new community features and updates that are going to be coming out this year. Can't go into like too big details or anything on it exactly. But for myself, I'm always trying to, you know, let's move at a good speed, but at the same time, don't release something until you're really proud of it. And I'm very, very hopefully confident that the community will be very proud of it, just like they were of the scanning features and stuff. So there's going to be some really, really big things. And I'm sorry, I just can't get into the details just yet. But I'm really excited.
We don't want to spoil it. No, it's super exciting. And I mean, you know, kind of one of the things with, you know, building a business, I mean, there's so many facets and aspects to what you have to do. I mean, you've got the social media aspect, which you just touched on. You've got the auction platform. You've got the, you know, what are we consigning, you know, here? How do we make sure it's authentic? I guess out of all of these things that you've done to be able to build RareCandy, what was the hardest part of doing it? I'm just curious because, you know, I think that anybody else who maybe tosses around, hey, I want to start a, you know, business in the Pokemon hobby. I mean, this year, probably more people are thinking about that than anything else, just because of the popularity. What was maybe one of the bigger one or two hurdles that you ran into that maybe were just unexpected, where you said, oh, wow, I don't know if I'm going to be able to overcome this, you know, this is just super tough. I mean, anything that stands out, you know, in your process of building it?
I think like the biggest things are just, well, I can tell you the biggest thing was, it's like a double-edged sword, I guess, is the growth that we've had since launching the scanner. We underestimated the type of growth that we would have of new signups and everybody coming on. And we had hockey stick type of growth, which is amazing. But I didn't realize you need so many more servers helping you with the amount of data that you are getting. And it costs a lot to have these servers with the amount of people you saw. I mean, 20 million scans or something like that of cards.
Crazy.
Now well more higher than that now. And it just keeps on growing. So it's like, I think we kind of underestimated the growth because we didn't know when or even if it would happen, but it finally did happen. And that was the most surprising thing. It's like, hey, I think we got something here. And sure, is it perfect? No, but that's where we want to continue growing to try to, keep that growth going, but at the same time, not get too, close to the sun when it comes to things. So, and even for instance, we had prismatic evolutions drops that it was my idea. I wanted to sell the very few that we got, compared to like a massive distribution of them for MSRP. And so, people in the market and stuff was going crazy for them. We had like so many people wanting to go after them and stuff, but then there was all these bots and these people targeting us with bots and stuff where, we actually did the best we could and we got rid of the bots and stuff like that had the orders. So all of the orders went to real people, but it's just like, if Pokemon and Best Buy and all these companies, until like you're seeing right now, the drops that they're all having and it's like crashing sites and stuff. It's like, if the richest, or not richest, but the most highest grossing or franchise in the world is not able to tackle the problem of so much demand, what is a small little company like ours going to be able to do? So that's where the type of growth in demand and having the appropriate team and resources ready for it was definitely the biggest challenge, I would say.
No, it's amazing. And one of the things that, just kind of touching on that, I tried to join in on those drops, I think a couple of days out of the 2 or 3 days that you guys did it. I actually wasn't even aware that you guys kind of canceled the bot orders and were able to get those to real people. And I think that's important to kind of highlight with what you guys do, because a lot of people just say, well, we sold our product and sorry, good luck next time, so I think it's admirable that you do that. I mean, I think yourself and Danny Phantom are two of the people that I come to mind when it comes to, hey, I've got all these, products from either distribution or however you guys acquire now. I'm going to sell them for MSRP. And that's what we're going to do. It is pretty admirable to be able to turn away some of the margins that we have in this market right now. And I'm curious with RareCandy, as far as like that's auctioning and the platform as a whole. I mean, are you guys seeing as much of an increase right now in volume, or is it more just kind of pricing that you're seeing as far as an adjustment? I would imagine there's a lot of new people looking for outlets. So what are you guys seeing so far in this insanity that we're going through right now?
I think probably, not that I know everything because I don't, I think most people just want inventory, supply.
Right.
There's way too much demand for the supply that's out there, whether it's the biggest issue is, printing from Pokemon, and whether the reasons of why there wasn't as much printed originally for Prismatic to where now there is going to be, to where people just want actual supply, whether to open it or whatever other reasons they want to do, collect it. There's not as much to go around, and hence you have this type of market that we're in right now. And so, for instance, RareCandy is primarily not a first-party seller as much as we used to be. So that's where myself, I do want to give that disclaimer of, it was my idea to do it. We could have priced the ETBs at a certain price or anything, but I was like, with what we've got, because that's not our main shtick at this point, is being a first-party seller, is the RareCandy marketplace and the different types of sellers that we have on there. And we do have a lot. So I can only control what RareCandy's own product is. And of course, we are trying to match that supply because, yes, there are so many new people from across the world that do want to buy new stuff, old stuff, mid-year stuff, graded cards, sealed packs, vintage boxes, really anything. Like, it's just, we're in that type of market where there isn't enough supply to meet that demand.
Yeah, no, that is one thing that, as of right now, I think you kind of got two camps, when it comes to what's happening, is people are taking what little product they have. I mean, I've got multiple friends who own LGSs, and that's one thing that, it's hard for them to justify turning down the margins that we're seeing right now, ultimately, especially if you're able to get things from distribution. So I think that is something that's pretty unique to RareCandy, is that, yes, you're not a first party seller. You are able to, let's call it, make up those margins in the actual core platform that you guys have built, but it doesn't mean you always have to, sell it for MSRP. So I think that's super admirable. Have you guys had quite a bit of new, I guess, stores and maybe profiles that are, as far as sellers, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if you guys limit who can come in, but
we do.
Have you seen a lot of growth in the last 4 to 6 months of, interest in wanting to do that, I guess, on the platform?
Yeah, so that is just the one thing for now. You know, we are such a smaller team and we want to vet every single seller that does come on our platform. So you can apply, of course. But there is a type of rigorous process to making sure that if you are selling on RareCandy, you know, you do satisfy all of the criteria and stuff. So is there interest? Absolutely. Has it gone up, especially these past several months? Of course it has. But at the same time, we're not adjusting our type of criteria because we want whoever is on RareCandy to be, you know, a legit trusted seller.
Right. Makes sense. No, I appreciate you sharing that. And that is something everybody, RareCandy's in the description of this video. I mean, it's a amazing platform, and Lee's right. I mean, a ton of great sellers, good pricing, which is hard to come by, I think, in this market at this point, and stuff that's actually available, which is also hard to come by at this point. So,
and some stuff just goes by so fast. You know, that's where you were saying with like the local card stores and such, where if they do price, you know, to a certain point, they're going to have nothing in their store. So, and it's a tough, and I think I saw distributors, like news saying distributors are going to be raising their prices as well or something. I think I saw. So it's like, you know, it is going to be continuing to be crazy. But that being said, I mean, Pokemon did say they are printing more, and from who have I personally spoken to at Pokemon, they admit that they just dropped the ball essentially and not printing as much for whatever the type of reason. They didn't tell me that or anything, but that they know, they're like, man, we should have printed more, and now we're rectifying that. And so there is going to be a lot more coming, but then you see all the fights in like the Costco stores and stuff like that. Or I think there was something with like the vending machine and this guy like blocking.
He boxed him out.
Guy.
It was great. I mean, great form, yeah. I will say, out of anything. He had great form if you're going to do it. But yes, it's crazy to see. And, you know, with Pokemon, I think I read something when I was looking into that about they plan these sets out years in advance. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, how can you predict this sort of demand, right? Like, you know, they can take fault, but ultimately demand is so dynamic and product is static. So
but it's
like,
an evolution, they're going to print what they're though. I told them, it's an evolution, guys. You got to know, like, but you're right. Yeah. You know, you're absolutely right, though. It really is. Because, I mean, I will say this, sorry to digress just a little, is you had those Scarlet and Violet base booster boxes that were going for under $90. Mm-hmm. Things were just sitting on a shelf and stuff. Pokemon can't just have their product sitting, because then they're a business. Mm-hmm. You know, if it's just sitting and people are not buying it and stuff, they're going to run into that oversupply problem and stuff. It's just, of course, we got to these sets, you know, with the trainers Pokemon for Journey Together coming out like later this week, and then of course Evolutions and Prismatic and everything. It really just caught up to it. Yeah,
it's almost like pulling out like a Pikachu set or something. It's like, guys, come on, like, you know, there's going to be demand for this, but I just don't think that they expected near.
I guess it did start. You're right. It did start with like Surging Sparks, and it's a Pikachu set, and you want to go after that Pikachu, because anything before that was just, you know, it was like, all right, what's this or what's that? It's like nothing too.
Even 151. 151, in my opinion, is one of the best sets they've ever released, if not the best set. I mean, granted, I can't say
best set.
I can't say that over like a Quaplus or anything, but it is incredibly fun to open as a Gen 1 boomer when it comes to, you know, you try to ask me to name any Gen 3 or Gen 4 Pokemon, I'm out. I will sound crazy, but I know that 151, you know, sat for a while, sat for months, you know, and now, I mean, you look at 151, I mean, that's one of the most high demand products ever, you know, as of right now. I mean, I know Surging Sparks, I think, is a good example, like you said, is that really was the catalyst of like, oh, wow, these are selling for what? You know, I think booster boxes hit $300 and then, you know, discounted themselves to $260 for a box that was out for a couple of weeks. I mean, it was just, it's just crazy to see kind of what that stuff has turned into, which, you know, kind of taking a slight segue, you know, back to, you know, how you kind of navigate, obviously navigating the market is tough for people, but I think you've got a very unique position in the fact that you have a business that you've had for, you know, years now, and trying to navigate these highs, lows, kind of all over the place. You're a full-time content creator as well, which I can't even imagine the struggle on that. So kind of focusing in on that a little bit, you know, one thing, even myself, the last time I did the series was about 2 years ago. which is nuts. Again, time just flying by everybody. When I went back to do this, I was so excited to get all the people on that I talk to regularly and just am friends with, and just kind of share them out to the community. Even doing these, 1 to 2 times a week, I already kind of feel it's. I mean, I have to humble myself with thinking people like yourself, like you're literally putting in the grind. But I think, wow, this is a lot of work. Just kind of setting up schedules and keeping stuff going. And wow, maybe I don't feel like talking, but I have to. This is why I chose to do it. How do you? I mean, what did we calculate? 11 years, 12 years, something like that. Really focusing on putting out, the Leonhart channel, content. I've seen a couple of videos where it's been harder for you to keep going, or you've talked about taking breaks. I think you scaled down your posting schedule, if I remember correctly, from a while back. You posted a video about how do you, with all these other ventures, how do you keep doing content specifically? Because I feel like that has got to be one of the more draining ones, just from an emotional standpoint and a headspace standpoint. How do you keep that going all the time?
That's a great question, but I first have to say kudos to you for keeping up with this. I think, and for anyone out there that's watching that has their own type of content that they do, not necessarily in Pokemon, it could be anything. It is definitely a grind, but if you can be consistent above all, and that's just releasing something, doesn't need to be perfect, because that's one weakness that I have, is trying to think it needs to be perfect before going out. But if you can just improve, and I know this is cliche saying, just that 1% every single content that you release better, 1% better. I mean, 5 videos later, that's 5%, another 10 after that, 15%. So it's like, it can expound really, really fast, or compound. I'm not really sure what the word is, but you can get better, but it's all about being that consistent. So whatever it takes to get to that, like setting a habit, which is like 30 to 60 days. That's a lot. It's definitely a lot. But for myself, it was being consistent for, a decade at that point, to where, again, wanting to always challenge myself and improve. I got to the point where it's like, I posted 8 videos a week, 7 videos a week, 5, 4, 3. And of course, it's way different back then, the quality, compared to nowadays, and with the equipment that you're available to. But it's about improving every single time. And that's where I thought to myself, I've opened everything there virtually is to open. I pulled Charizard several times, first edition. I've pulled it with these people, with this and that and stuff. So it's like, what else can I do at that point to challenge myself and really do what makes me happy? And that's doing stuff with the community. And that's where, 2022, I think it was, maybe 23, I'm not sure, where I was like, I got to just stop, because it did get to that, like, man, I haven't taken a break in like a decade, to where it's not a break because I was training for the boxing event at the time, but where it's like, what can I do to now move to the next level? I started RareCandy. I had my daughter, Ellery, who's two-ish years old, a little more than that. And I really wanted to focus on family first and foremost, because that's the most important thing in the world to me. But content is very, very close too. So I wanted to make sure it's good content, actually, and that involves the community and stuff. And that's where you have videos like I made a lemonade stand ice cream truck video that I did. Of course, my vending series that I do, where made a whole old vending machine and put a whole base set 2 box in there and a bunch of other packs and had people come. So it's like all of that always boils back down to what makes me happy and what makes the community happy. And that's combining it together into these hopefully more entertaining videos. And are they successful always? No, but that's where it's like the kind of the fun in it. It almost feels like you're back at the beginning and you don't necessarily know what works. And that's the thrill. And that's what part of life is. And that truly, I think makes me feel alive.
Well, I think, I've definitely noticed a switch just from someone who views your content, because it's probably sometimes hard to like put yourself in that, like, what are people seeing that, you see yourself in a certain way, you see your content in a certain way, you can think of all the edits and cuts that were happening and, oh, we didn't add this, but we added this. From someone watching, I've noticed such a shift in the quality. Because I remember there was a video you put out that you said, I'm going to start focusing on high quality videos. Like I'm basically, it was a soft announcement of like, hey, the content's changing, which I think was communicated very well. But everything from like your video with Cloud, at the being able to run a game store, I think was fantastic. I really, really enjoyed that.
Thank you.
you going around and buying like the most expensive pack from all these different stores was cool because I know some of those people. So being able to see, those stores obviously get a little bit of publication of like, hey, they're actually over here. And there were some that I like noted in my head of like, oh, I didn't know there was a store over here. So I do love that you haven't fully shifted, but there's a lot more peppered in of things like community involvement and being able to go out and talk to people who are in the community, because I think that you have a personality that's really easy to watch and listen to, in doing that.
Thanks.
And I think you're a great medium to be able to do it. So I've very much enjoyed it. So just not necessarily a question on this aspect. I just want to let you know, like from a feedback from an actual viewer, just right now, like I think what you're doing and the way you've evolved your content, especially in this last year, has been really good. And arguably, I think it's been really, really great as far as received by the community.
Thank you.
Because some people just know you as a pack opener, but it's like, Lee's done a lot of stuff. Like you've done the ice cream truck, I think, right? Like you've done a lot of different things. So
I appreciate that. And that's where you just don't know what's going to happen, where it's like, you've been doing openings and unboxings for that long. So it is like, how do you show the world? How do you show the community and beyond kind of like where you are in your stage of life and content specifically? And so that's where it's like, I don't want to put something out just to put something out. We've all been there and done that. But like at this point, I want to put something out that, I guess an analogy is like, or a comparison, like an NFL game compared to an NBA game or an MLB game that's on every single day, pretty much, or every other day. It's like, when I put out a video, I want people to know like, oh, it's going to be this type of way now compared to before. And you can't make everybody happy, of course, because it's a different type of style or everything. But I try to incorporate elements of that into all of these new types of videos. But at the same time, am I experimenting still to find what makes the community happy, content-wise? Of course. And that's part of the fun and the scariness of it too.
Right. One thing I do want to talk about. So I basically want to talk about this piece. I told you pre-stream, I've got a surprise for you. I want to show you that way you can see that. So I'll show you that. And then guys, thank you for the chat questions. Please continue dropping those. We will definitely get to those and discuss those. But one thing I think a lot of people really don't know is you actually are a legitimate voice actor, and you've actually done voice acting on some pretty large shows, which I don't think people realize. Was that and this is a legitimate question for myself, was this before you were making YouTube content? Was this something you were working toward? Did it kind of coincide with it? How did you get into voice acting? And if you want to name off a couple of shows that you voiced for, I would love for people to know that.
Sure. So, I mean, it started back in like 2014, I think. One of my friends, and he still actually works there at Funimation, which is now Crunchyroll, because Crunchy, and it's based here in Dallas. Funimation and Flower Mound, Crunchyroll Sony owns Crunchyroll. Crunchyroll bought Funimation not too long ago, so it's now just Crunchyroll. Say that 3 times in a row. And I told my friend, I'm like, I'm interested in doing this, but like, how do you do it and stuff? He's like, well, you need a character reel where it's like 30 to 60 seconds of you just doing different voices. If you don't have an actual resume, like most people, I didn't at that time. I was just graduated from college or law school at the time. I'm like, I did like Tien and Vegeta and stuff from Dragon Ball. And I'm like, I did it. I put it on a clip. And at the time, you were able to just send it to this email where it's like at blah, blah, blah at Funimation, to where he's like, yeah, anybody can send to this email. And if they need people, they'll reach out to you. They reached out to me like the next day. And it was somebody named Mike McFarlane, who's an amazing, not only director, but voice actor. He does Master Roshi and Yajirobe.
Oh, no kidding. How cool.
Yeah. So he reached out himself, and I'm like, oh my God, this is 2015, I believe. And I'm like, or maybe 14. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And he's like, hey, you want to come do some voices for a little anime called One Piece? And I'm like, what? It's something called a Walla session, which is there's 3 other people with you in one booth, and you're essentially the background characters and stuff. And that is essentially, if you want to do character voice acting, that's kind of your way in. So I started doing it. I was like some pirates, I was some Marines and stuff. And you'd be like, yeah, I was part of Captain Boogie. I don't know if you watch One Piece at all, but like Captain Boogie and stuff, I was part of his like crew and stuff. He'd be like, yeah, Captain Boogie, let's go. And you have to like go crazy with everybody. And it was a lot of fun. And I met a lot of people in the community as well. But eventually I kept on doing that. And I was able to be one of the Yeti Cool brothers, who were these assassins going after Luffy and his crew. And the name was Rock. There's Scotch and Rock, and my name was Rock for one of them. I didn't have too many lines, but the fact that I actually have an official character and I'm waiting for the One Piece game to come out with the card so I can finally have my own card of Rock, one of the Yeti Cool Bros, that was kind of my like claim to fame with voice acting. But that was also back in like 2015. Since at that time, when I had more time, I was doing a lot of different shows, that people may not even know. I would have never even watched the show unless, I got to go do it and stuff. So I also took a class with somebody named Chris Rager. He voiced Mr. Satan or Hercule from Dragon Ball. And this was during
Dragon Ball guy. So this is so cool to hear.
So he had a class and sorry if I'm going way too long, but he had a voice acting class in 2015. No, 2017, I think, because that's when Dragon Ball Super was out, or maybe 16, and which is, I can't believe it's been that long. And I was like, wait, I get to go do this class because he's based here in Dallas, because a lot of the voice actors are here. So I'm like, I get to go do this class with him. And I'm like, yeah. So I did this class in the same Okatron 7 or 5000 is the name of Chris Sabatz. He's the voice of Vegeta, Piccolo, his studio up in Plano, Plano, Texas. And the same place where Sean Schemmel and everybody would come and record Dragon Ball Super at the same time. So I'm like, I'm in like royalty mode. Like we grew up watching Dragon Ball and stuff. So I took this class with Chris Rager. He's amazing. The final class you do is not only in front of Chris and a few others, but Chris Sabat himself came in behind the window and would watch you read some lines. Was I nervous? Yes. And I probably screwed up during that time, but it was a way for you to also continue to get noticed in the industry, which is so saturated and hard. You do have a lot of the bigger names getting a lot of the stuff. But even to this day, I was like, I got to go back to some of my roots and doing some voice acting. So I started doing a little bit more trying out for some shows. And I did a recent show. It's called Junji Ito. It's not like it's kind of like its own thing, but I got to go back to Crunchyroll, check it out, and been doing a couple shows. Some I can't even say out just yet because I'm not allowed to just yet, but just a way to get back into it because I really, really had a lot of fun. But am I doing it a lot more now or like for a while after 2015? No, because I wanted to focus on Pokemon content and everything in that regard.
Well, I like it because you're still making content and you definitely have a very, unique voice. A lot of people come on here with, their energy level is about a 5 out of 100, right? We're going to talk about the market today. We're going to do, even just the intros immediately, you're like, hello. Like, it's just a very.
My name is Leonhart. And I'm trying to think of what's my original starting on eBay. It was like, I was like trying to model like Markiplier. So I'm like, welcome everybody. My name is Leonhart. And today we are opening XY breakpoint packs or whatever it was at the time. So, but no, thank you.
That took me to the videos I was watching yesterday, right then. I love, such a cool story. And Chris Sabat is I know that it's all here in Dallas. And I was lucky to meet Sean at Dallas CollectCon. And, he went to University of North Texas, which I was in Denton for a very long time. So it's a very, very cool, but very small community. So just you being able to even read for him or be able to do that is super cool. And I hope that
if I can tell my 11-year-old self that I had Chris Sabat, the voice of Vegeta, man, we grew up with that, in middle school. Kind of dating ourselves.
Vegeta watched me talk. That's like such a surreal thing.
And I will lastly say on it, and I'm so sorry I interrupted. I just get a little excited about it.
No, it's okay.
I was in Dragon Ball Super, but I was just one of the background guys. So you didn't have a name or anything.
That's amazing though. That has always been like a dream of mine is to be able to, I can be the guy who makes a blip in the episode. I don't care. I just want to see my name. Like,
well, just do it right now. Go like, oh, like that. Just do that right now. In front of there you go. Little. You need to go from 10 to 100. You said 5 to 100. Let's see a little 10 there. True. No, but it is. Yeah, I'm really grateful for it, and it's again kind of that thing of like challenging myself, and you can kind of check that off the box of what would make 11-year-old Leonhart really happy.
Yeah. Yeah. I always think back to, to watching that and even being able to meet Sean and hear him talk in his normal voice, which is very close
It's
to
very
Goku.
close to Goku's voice. Yeah.
And I told him when I met him, I was like, I'm sorry, you were kind of the voice of my childhood. So it's kind of odd to hear you speak and like see you, speak this way. It's just, I don't know if I could tell myself, when I was like, Mom, did you record this on our VCR? Like, cause I'm not home from school yet, that, hey, you'll be meeting this guy one day. Super cool. But,
And it's special because we are here in Dallas. That gives us that chance.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was a Collecticon, but and he's based in LA, but at the same time, you never know. Maybe there is,
Chris
if you want
lives
to do
here.
voice acting or something. Yeah, Chris and both Chris's, Chris Sabat and Chris Rager live here, and Mike McFarlane. So all of like the DBZ crew is here. Like that's where they've always been, and that's what's kind of special about Dallas.
Yeah, they've got a very interesting backstory of how they brought Dragon Ball here and how it was just. I mean, you talk about grassroots and just no resources. Never thought it was going to be anything. I mean, it's such a cool story. I hope that'll be one thing I'll mention to Sean next time I see him. I was like, just let me
get Sean,
please,
get Chris or Sean on the podcast.
I doubt Chris would do it because he won't even go to Dallas Collecticon. Like he wants to get in the Cybertruck and go hang with the fam, which I get. But I think Sean would probably. We had a really good conversation, and his agent had to. He was like, Sean, you've got like 1,000 people behind you. Like we've got to stop talking. And I was like, all right, I'll go. But I'm gonna try and have a conversation with him because I think it'd be a good.
That's awesome.
But,
really is.
But with that being said, I want to show you something.
Okay.
So this has to do with the pop-up shop. So one thing that you mentioned, you guys, people were opening a lot of packs. There was a base set pack that was opened, and I think it might have been like the third or fourth. There was one Charizard pulled in that, right? So
in the base set pack?
Yes.
Or base set 2 pack?
Was it base set 2 or base set? I can't remember which.
Because at the beginning of the show, there was somebody that I think it was from a base set 2 pack maybe pulled a Charizard. I don't really remember, but there was a couple. But I specifically remember at the very beginning, I thought somebody had pulled one.
So if you can see this.
Oh, no way.
It was a base set pack.
This is not like Alex Hodge's Charizard, is it?
No, this is basic trainer. Okay. Whoops. If I can, sorry guys, I'm like struggling hard here. So basic trainer, shout out basic trainer. I think he's in the chat. He sent me this before our stream. You signed his box that he got because Rusty ran over and wanted to grade it for him and pay for it. So he had Rusty sign the box and you signed the box, and he's never actually released like the grade or anything like that. But he actually he's got the Leonhart pop-up on the label.
That's which so I think is cool. Yeah, fantastic. PSA at the time kind of grandfathered that in. They had like stopped doing that or something at the time. But I was like, oh, I think I want to give people the choice or something like that. They're like, oh, we can only do this much or something.
Only some did and some didn't. But
it was kind of a mess or something like that. But to see it in this card with that on it, I mean, it's like, oh man, I kind of want that myself. But that's so cool. That's such a cool thing.
He was like, I mean, I've bugged him for years because one thing that Basic Trainer did is he never looked at the grade or never told anybody what the grade was. He just wanted to be a surprise. He kept it sealed forever. So he sent me the cert image earlier and said, I want Lee to see this and see his pop-up shop.
I mean, the centering looks like virtually perfect. Maybe a little at the top, but that may just be myself seeing stuff. It looks fantastic. So congrats on that grade, and congrats on having a Leonhart pop-up on it. I don't know. It makes you almost like teary-eyed because there was so much planning and things going into that event. Something that, I was fortunate at the time to have been able to have gotten that much vintage product in general, and had, real good touring who helped me put it on, during still at the very end of the pandemic and stuff, put something on, that, I wanted to replicate, but I just don't have that stuff anymore. So it's like, could I have kept all those vintage packs and stuff for myself? Sure. And I could be making a lot selling them now. And that's great if I went that route, but I wanted to do something for the community so I can see stuff like I just saw. So thank you so much for sharing that with me.
Yeah, I thought you'd appreciate it. I mean, it was funny because I remember walking in, and Basic Trainer was one of the people I had been really good friends with online and had never met in person. So
Mhm.
I had just gotten in and texted him and said, "Hey, I'm here. Where are you?" And I mean, the second I turn that like corner after you get in the entrance, I hear everybody screaming because a Charizard just got pulled. And then
Yeah,
I
that's
see him
so
in a
cool.
I see him a bit after that, and I was like, "Yeah, people were screaming. I guess a Charizard got pulled." He goes, "Yeah, I pulled that," which was so funny because it was like the third pack or so. I can't remember. It wasn't that many. It was like at the very beginning, but
Oh, that's
um,
awesome. That's so
yeah,
cool.
he wanted you to see that and wanted the reaction and to kind of
Well,
see what you thought about it. So
that's amazing. Like I'm gonna be thinking of that card just because it's still so cool to see just stuff that you're still learning about, or the relationships that people are still talking to people that they were, meeting there, and that
mhm,
they're still friends today. That wouldn't have happened because of that event. So was it a
very
perfect
true.
event? No, but no one's done anything like it, and probably won't ever do something like it at this point. So the fact that I was able to make that happen. That was my challenge, and something
Mhm.
that I'm ultimately going to be, grateful that I was able to do. And so,
Yeah,
seeing that, thank you for sharing it with me. It really is so
yeah.
special to see that.
No, it was a great time. Well, guys, I want to go through some chat questions. So if you guys have any questions for Lee as we're in here, we'll spend the next few minutes, getting those answered, and then be able to wrap up. I'm just going to scroll back here because I know there were some people who had Pokemon Classics, great content creator. If you've seen his stuff for, hey, Peek and Lee, I appreciate you both and hope you're both doing well. Thank you, Pokemon Classics.
Thank you.
Thanks for hopping in, man. There was a pretty funny question. I think it was one of the first ones.
Hmm.
Let me see. It's a great question for you, Lee. Are the terrible twos real?
Is my wife watching right now? No. You live and learn. Yeah. If we have another kid, I'll be more prepped for it. But for right now, I really can't complain. I mean, yeah, there are those lows, but at the same time, having a kid, whether she goes crazy at certain points because she gets tired and then you can't put her to sleep and stuff. I'm learning here. But like I said earlier on in this video, is I just really enjoy first and foremost that family time, and especially at this point because I'm digressing a little, but it's like you're seeing people pass away in the news of celebrities and people that you used to watch, and you're just like, man, you really just gotta spend that time with the family and really go after what you want to go after in life. It's like, are people going to make fun of you for this and that and stuff? Like that happens everywhere. So it's like, why don't you
Mhm.
just do it? Are you going to think about that, what that person said in 5 years? No, you're not, but you are going to think about that regret of not starting something. So I don't know how that came from that question of are the terrible twos ready? So let's get to the next one. I want to make sure to get to the
No,
next
you're good. You're good. It's fun. Um, and by the way, I have three daughters. So Greeny, I know you didn't ask myself, but
one. No more
basically
than I do.
take the number after terrible and replace it with a different one, and they're all the same. Like there's always going to be bad ages, no matter what, or bad times, whatever. There's any age,
Mhm.
but overall, they're pretty enjoyable. Um, Pokemon Classic said, we've seen the boxing and American Ninja Warrior episode. Any other hobbies outside of Pokemon, and do they intersect with Pokemon in any way?
Well, I like to work out a lot. And granted, that physical activity has to do with both of those things. So it's like a massive hobby is working out. I love collecting in general. Like right now, I'm collecting PlayStation 1 games. I'm posting like new ones on Twitter and stuff that I get. And so I kind of go through these sticks of like, I just like collecting this or that. And it's not a lot because I don't have that much room, but it's all about like what reminds me of amazing times and memories. And so collecting is a big hobby, working out's a big hobby. um, I've been trying to plan this event where it's a big all-star basketball charity game that somehow involved Pokemon in some way. Working That's a work in progress. I was going to do something with the Mavericks, but then the Mavericks kind of imploded with
Mm,
selling the team. This was before Nico Harrison and stuff, but Mark Cuban sold the team. I was
mhm,
walking the AAC with the Mavericks because I was doing a charity all-star basketball game, partnering with them. And we were going around one preseason game versus the Houston Rockets. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, guys, did y'all see that the Mavericks just sold the team while I'm with the Mavericks team? And the
yeah.
CFO, the main social media person they the CFO knew, they just didn't say anything. But the social media person, I can tell they did not know that the Mavs sold the team at the time. So basically, again, I'm digressing way too much, but those are kind of my main things. I'm a man of routine, so it really is doing stuff with Pokemon, and I just don't get tired of it. I don't know about y'all, but I just love it. It really, every day I walk in just my office little here. It's just the little temporary office I have, and I'm seeing this stuff on my shelves, and I'm just like, I never get tired of seeing it. That's when you know you love doing something. So
yeah, usually you're like, what else? What could I put next to this box, or what could I put over here? Like, there's so many different ways to collect
exactly,
in this hobby, which I
exactly.
love.
But that was a great question. Thank you for asking, Pokemon Classics.
Red or Blue YouTube. What does a day in the life of Leonhart look like?
Thank you. I guess that's kind of back to my routine. I've always wanted to do like oh, hey guys, here's my day in the life of Leonhart. So it's really not that exciting, to be completely honest. Like, sure, I occasionally do really cool stuff because like the boxing, but it's not like it's the way Leonhart be successful in my own life, in mine, and business as well, and content is I have to have that routine. So I will wake up, check emails, get ready, drink my pre-workout. I'll go work out from 9 to 10 a.m. virtually every single day. I don't take days off doing it. Not like it's crazy workout, but it's still enough. And then for the rest of the day, it's on and off of, I'll go to the RareCandy office, do stuff there. I'll be planning a video or a script for a video now, or, actually going to record a video like I just did at the North Texas Card Show, which was amazing, by the way, just really crowded.
I had no idea you were there, by the way. I was there Sunday.
You wouldn't know. It's so crowded there, which is like insane. Why they're expanding. So, we will have those days where it's like, yeah, I got some fun stuff going on. But for the most part, it's like, yeah, I do this, work out, do some work, do some scripting, this content. And then the rest of the evening, I like to be with the family.
I love it. Zard Lurkin, so this is actually a really good question. He said, do you have any big plans / videos to achieve 2 million subs on YouTube, or just mainly focusing on the business side of things? Any special stuff we're looking for when you hit 2 million subs? I know you will. So
it's a great question, Zard Lurkin. Thank you so much for asking that, because I've been so not focused on trying to hit 2 million until recently. I've started, having better success with some videos and kind of being like, I think I like this, doing this way and stuff. And then I've started to see that growth because I've been now seeing like that finish line is there. So because of that, sure, I'm doing some cool, fun videos here and there to help me achieve it. But do I have something in mind? Yes, I do. And I can't share it just yet, but it will be something that I'm just personally really proud of when it does happen. And I will say it is going to be live. So that's for, me not doing too much live stuff. It's going to be live and it will be involving people. That's all I can say. But it's going to be something that I truly hope that y'all enjoy. But for years, I've been building out RareCandy, being with family and stuff. I wasn't really focusing on the numbers. But now it's like, hey, we're getting pretty close, and it's not going to take too long to try to hit that 2 million. And it's like, subs don't matter as much as they used to on YouTube. But at the same time, that's a lot. And it's a
big milestone, man.
That's a big milestone of growing it. So now I'm kind of back on that like road to 2 million type of thing. Not like when I was a million where I was like opening up vintage pack. Because now I'm just focusing on different types of content and stuff. But do I have something? Yes. It's not going to just be once I hit it. Like there is stuff coming up throughout that time to help me get there. And it's going to be some of the biggest stuff you will see like in the world. Like I promise you, it's going to, I don't want to set that high of expectation. It's going to involve people that I'm excited that just hasn't been seen before, not just for when I hit it. And again, this makes me happy, and I hope it will make Zard Lurking, who asked the question, happy as well, and anyone else. When they happen. Yeah.
That has me hyped just hearing that. Just a couple more. So Lurkin Lowry, not a question. He said, Leonhart got me introduced to the hobby.
Thank you so much, Lurkin Lowry. I appreciate that so much. Whenever somebody does come up to me and say that, especially at like North Texas Card Show and stuff, and they, whether they start content or have their own vendor that they're doing, or just in general, they started their other type of hobby or whatever, they took that leap, especially when I did by quitting an attorney and, going full-time, when now going full-time, because of COVID, it kind of made it not as like, what are you doing? But back then it was like, what are you doing type of thing. So thank you for saying that. I do appreciate that. And anyone else that is in the chat and watching or has watched throughout the decade of stuff, I appreciate you.
That's amazing. So we've got one more comment, and I want to shout out Basic Trainer. This is that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the shirt or maybe what he wore there.
That's from what he wore, because I remember. Yeah. I specifically remember it. Yeah, thank you, man.
Yeah, he said thank you for the experience, Leon. It's also the only bases art I've ever pulled. So you gave him that experience because of that event. I mean, just amazing stuff.
And thank you for sharing that again. That really, really is such a highlight to see. So thank you so much, Basic Trainer. I appreciate that, man.
So I'll do our final question here, guys. It'll say, hey, Peek and Lee, what do you think of the idea of there being a PokeTuber Hall of Fame? I tried to send Pat a DM with the idea of it having a tie-in with Card Party. Thoughts? I'll let you take that first.
I mean, first off, Kevin, thank you so much for the suggestion and question. I never really thought of like a Hall of Fame. I would think of it more of like a Hall of Amazingness or something, because there's just so many incredible creators that have not only they've come and gone, they're here, or they're of a different size. You know, I've been doing this for a while, but not one day goes by where I always am grateful and make sure that I try to remain humble in whatever I'm doing, to be thankful that we are in this position. So no matter what the size of the creator is, I think that's what it should be more so of, is like a Hall of Fame, sure, but I don't like comparing this and this and that. I guess I just have imposter syndrome, I guess, but more of like just giving the respect to the different types of creators that are out there and the different types of sizes and when they've come and gone, especially.
Yeah, Kevin, and I agree with what Lee said. I don't like the competitiveness of that, because some people are in Hall of Fame, some people are not. What I would really enjoy is I'm a big fan of having like creator mashups. So I like taking, and I did this like in my first season of doing this type of interview series. I interviewed 2 people at the same time for every single one and tried to keep it to an hour and a half, which is like, Mission Impossible status. But I always try to get people who you would never really see on camera together. And I thought that was really unique, because most people know of, I'll just think like I had Rusty and Charlie Herlocker on. They're actually good friends in real life and really enjoy each other, but you never see them speak. So I think I wanted to really just give the community like, hey, how do they interact with each other? And then being able to share stories of like, the WotC employee that Rusty met and Charlie's thoughts on, the market, and being able to see all that in one package was really fun. So less Hall of Fame, more about like people you would not expect to like collaborate with, I guess. Like if you've got someone who's really big into just ripping packs all the time, and then you've got someone who only does entertainment content, like basically they're switching or something.
You
like,
kind of have that in a way, Kevin, already at Card Party when we're all up on the stage, and Pat brilliantly and his team have the different type of games that we do, the different type of Q&A sessions that he has. So in a way, in what you're saying right now is we do have that interaction that you just really don't even see at any other type of event. So in a way, it's kind of like not a Hall of Fame, but you're getting that interaction in that type of, people watching.
Yeah, because it is nice, because some people, or sometimes you'll get stuck on one type of content, and I've always tried to watch as many different styles as I can, and seeing those match together. I haven't been to Card Party. It's on my checkbox list at some point to go to, but if they're doing things like that, I think that's such a unique idea, and I think it's something that I think people enjoy seeing. It's nice to see the collaboration again. Like you mentioned, this community is so collaborative and so large, but so small. So it's nice to be able to know that there's people putting those type of personalities together, and for everybody to see. I mean, at the end of the day, people are human. I'm sure at this point especially with like kids and stuff, they're probably starstruck to see like the Leonhart, standing in front of them. But at the end of the day, I think that, it humanizes, people from just behind the camera, which I think is really nice to see. And even you doing this is amazing, because I remember when we jumped on, I guess it was a few months back when you were on with like Charlie and Zach. Yeah. People were like, I didn't know his voice sounded like that, which is just a funny thing to hear.
A big question I get as recent as North Texas Card Show is, oh, Leonhart, I thought you were taller. I'm like, I don't know how to answer that exactly. I'm like, I feel like I need to wear like gel in my shoes whenever I go to shows now, or just have better posture. I'm always sitting all day. So, but no, funny thing is, quick small story, on the way back from Dallas Card Show on the Dallas North Tollway, which is, for everybody out there, the main kind of highway of Dallas going from north to south, more than like 10 minutes away from the show, there's an accident on the other side of the tollway, so we're kind of slowing down. There's a red type of Dodger or car next to my right. All of a sudden, the guy rolls his window down, and he's like, "Leonhart, oh my gosh, I'm a big fan!" And he holds up a Surging Sparks Pikachu and stuff. I'm like, wait, like were you just at the show? And he was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Did I see you?" He's like, "No, but I see you now." And I'm like, that's crazy. So I always want to, I mean, I couldn't walk out there and say hi. We were in the middle of the highway, but it's just, it always like, don't be afraid to come up and say hi. Like, y'all are what makes the community amazing. And so I always want to make sure I give the time to anyone that says hi.
Yeah, no, I love it. And they're like, he drives. This is crazy. No, so guys, yeah, Lee, I so appreciate you coming on, man. I appreciate you staying a couple more minutes to get some questions answered. This has been just a really fun conversation. And I think it really just shows, like you said, you know, again, this channel is not a very large channel in any metric whatsoever, but you know, yourself and a lot of the other people who are coming on here are really just giving the community a little bit more of a kind of a peek behind the curtain of like who you guys are. And that's kind of the goal of this, is really just, you know, all the relationships I built in this hobby over the years. You and I have been talking for, you know, I guess a couple of years now. I mean, you know, I've always checked in, and it's crazy to hear like your daughter's already 2, because I remember sending you a message and being like, "Congrats, man!" And that was like a week ago, right? But I so appreciate you coming on, spending the time. Chat, thank you guys so much for the questions. Just to let you guys know, today's Wednesday, so Friday I will have Dubsy on. This will be his first interview he's ever done.
That's big.
Yeah, I think that I don't even know if he was in Logan Paul's video. For anybody who doesn't know, he's the one who sold Logan Paul as PSA 10 illustrators. So I'm very excited for that. So that'll be something that if you guys follow the series, again, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff.
Definitely subscribe for that. I have to say, it's amazing. And if you're using this for a recording, I'm sorry, I'll let you do it. But I just have to say, guys, definitely watch it. I'll be watching as well, because Dubsy's amazing. That's all I'll say. Sorry.
No, I appreciate it. No, you didn't cut off anything. Don't even worry about it. I've tried to stress. There's been a couple of people who are like, I don't know who that is, and my mind kind of is just like, this is.
You will want to know who that is, because
yes.
I mean, they're also just really nice. But I digress.
No, it's going to be a great stream, and that'll be Friday, guys. It'll be a morning stream, so I'm sure most people watch it back. But it'll be 10 a.m. right after your workout, Lee. So if you want to throw it on the phone, feel free to say something. But guys, thank you so much again for joining myself and Lee again. Thank you so much for coming on and spending the time. This has been such a blast. So
absolutely,
thank you guys again.
And really quick, I just have to say thank you all. You could have been doing anything else with your time, but you chose to be here with us tonight. So again, thank y'all so much. And thank you as well for having me on. Keep up the amazing work. Stay consistent. And I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, guys, take it easy.
Bye-bye.